live from another great episode of Let's Talk. It's been a couple of weeks since I did a Let's Talk episode. I have a guest here. I call her my sis. I've known her for about 20 years. Rhonda T. Payne, and she is live from Crown Point, Indiana. I am live from Dorchester, Massachusetts. And today, we are talking about the narcissist versus the empath. Now, just wanted to make sure that you guys can hear me. Let me just start off by saying this. There's nothing wrong with having a good heart. I see that as a meme all over my Facebook time by hurt people. We're just not saying that we hurt, but there's nothing wrong with being a great heart, big-hearted person. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with giving. There's nothing wrong with loving, but there's everything wrong with not protecting your heart from the wolves. The wolves, you don't see people as wolves. That's why you get caught. You don't see people as wolves. The wolves sees you as bait. And that's the difference. Because the one thing you're going to be like, man, I just want to give people the benefit of doubt. I love people, blah, blah. But they don't see you like that.
No.
We both have our own experiences. We both have been destroyed by these wolves. I call them monsters. I know you call them vampires. And I call them monsters because the more that they're fed by people or by the supplier, they can become bigger and bigger and sometimes out of control. You call them vampires because they suck the life out of you.
Literally.
I know you want to go ahead and talk about the narcissist behavior. So go ahead, sis. Go ahead and take over.
Okay. So this has been a subject that I've had to deal with, and how I was able to get out of it is I started studying for some years, because when you're involved with narcissists, you don't just leave. That's not something, you hear people tell you all the time, well, if you're involved with this person, why don't you just leave? Sometimes you may have children, you may be in a relationship.
Why don't you just leave?
You've been in the love bomb phase. They love bomb you right away. So now you got all this oxytocin that you have and these connections that you have with the narcissist, and you just can't walk away. So what I did is, in the meantime, I started getting a little bit of my mind and started plotting my exit. And in order to be able to plot your exit, you have to feel good about yourself. These people are like when you think what an empath, I'm a Christian, but in the world they may call it somewhat psychic. You deal with it metaphysical, but in the church, to a certain extent, we call it maybe having perception or maybe having compassion. And it's all a big soul tie. That's what it is, because they get you emotionally. That's what they do. They draw you in emotionally. They get you
good at it. Like you did research, right? I never did research. In fact, there was terms that I created because of the behavior. There was terms that I created, like called offloading. How a narcissist has this, once they're being built up, once they're being like filled by your supply, because every empath has good supply. Okay, you are good supply. The kinder you are, the more loving you are great supply. And they need you by manipulating you, by making you feel sorry for them. Talk about, oh, my childhood. Oh, this happened to me as a child. And you become a sucker to that. And what happens is you want to be that person that says, you know what, I'm not going to leave you like everyone else said. You have almost this heroic mindset. You almost think you're Jesus, and you're not smarter than the situation, but they get you because they know how to tap into your weaknesses. They know how to get you like this. And what happens is the moment that you leave, the moment that you disconnect from the supply, they think you're the worst person in the world. And that's the thing. That's why you're conflicted with leaving, because you know what's going to do to them. You're like, oh, I don't know if I can leave. It's going to break them. That's the trap.
That's your empathetic part. That's your empathetic part. You don't want to destroy them because you felt that you were led to help them. But this is the thing that I want to say when it comes to people that are compassionate, that are empaths. A lot of times what happens, and then in the middle of that, you have codependent. I was at one point codependent, but I also had that empathetic part of me that was there. So the biggest part about it is when you are an empath with a narcissist, you are sought after. And a lot of times what you do is you're left with low self-esteem, thinking that what was wrong with me? How did I draw this person? No, you were studied. You had something to offer and everything. And what happens is this, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I didn't know that this was the type of person that I was with, because when I met them, they were so nice. No, they are good mirrors. They mirror you. They take on who you are and they mirror who you are, and it bounces back to you. So you're saying, oh my gosh, we're just alike. We just get along so well and all this. But in actuality, what they did,
we have so much in common. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We have so much in common. That's a lie. They just copying you.
Yeah, exactly.
They need you. They need you, so they will tell you everything that they will need. They will tell you what you need to do to make you feel like you're the one. Like you, out of everyone in the world, you help change their life. But what it is it's like like those mouse traps, the sticky pads. As soon as a mouse gets on that sticky pad, they're like, that's it. They need you in that position. And so what happens is with the empath, right? You give and you give and you give and you give, right? And you're doing everything that you can, right? You want to be honest. You want to be the best person. Whatever. And then all of a sudden you're made to seem like you're this worst person in the world. And then you're evaluating yourself like, man, what can I do to become better? Tell me. Nothing. Leave.
Exactly.
That's how you become better.
You can have the longest weave. You can have the longest weave. You can have the baddest shape and everything. When it's over, it is not going to work. You have to love you enough to understand that if you're going to lose weight, you do it for you. If you're going to get a weave, you do it for you, because you're never going to please them, because the biggest thing is it's about their attention. Now, the significant part about a narcissist is they definitely have to go and have it diagnosed, because it actually is a disorder. But what you'll learn about narcissists is most of them are not going to go. In studies, it is shown that 75 to 80% of men are narcissists. And the rest of them are women.
They're the biggest. So the thing is, like, okay, so here's the thing about like staying in a situation too long. When you stay in a situation too long, right, and you give and you're doing everything that you're supposed to, and then all of a sudden you're continually being stuck, you're being broken, you pick up addictions, pick up weight, you pick up depression, you pick up anxiety, then next you know, the teacher, the preacher, the pastor, God, your family, your friends, that's all trying to tell you are all liars. Because you're like, you know what? I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to. Why does my heart keep being broken? Because you haven't let go yet. You think you're smarter than the situation. You think that if you just continue to be more patient, it says right here, patience is a virtue. You could find whatever, my new favorite line is, you could find whatever you want to support your behavior, and trust me, you will find it. But the truth is, you need to detach. And most people don't want to detach because they don't want to disappoint. Because if they disappoint, that means they're a bad person, and they can't disappoint because you're not a bad person.
It's not necessarily that they that they don't want to detach. I was wondering why I stayed so long. I'm like, I'm smart. I'm Miss Rhonda. I know better. On the other end, when you start seeing it, you're like, oh my gosh. But what ends up happening is it's the oxytocin. it's based on a lot of the chemicals that run in your body that causes you to have an addiction. It is now an addiction, not to the narcissist is addicted to the source. The empath is addicted to the person. So the narcissist, they need a feeling. So that's why they always go find a new supply, because they need that new car smell. Like we all like that new car smell. And when we stop smelling like that new car, they don't want us no more. But with an empath, we're addicted to the person. So what ends up happening is we have that oxytocin on the inside of us. So that's why a lot of times you have to stop doing certain things within the relationship to stop that chemical from being in. Sometimes you end up going supernova after a while. And what that is, that comes from a bunch of like stars and stuff like that. You've taken and taken and taken and taken, and you're on your way. It's killing you. It literally is about to kill you. And then all of a sudden you absorb so much, you just explode. And then even after you explode, the narcissist, the empath still feels bad for exploding. Because what they do is they turn into a narcissist to get the narcissist.
You're actually the one apologizing. Because you say, like you did research, right? I never did research. In fact, the first video that I watched was the one that you sent me. But like 2 years later, after I started doing research because I wanted to know if certain terminologies that I was making up was true. Because I saw the behavior. Like you can see it. Like now I can see things from a mile away. I'm like, oh, I know that behavior very well. So there's one thing that a narcissist does. They need to offload. I call it offloading. Offloaded is that their anxiety has built up so bad. It's almost some people have a monthly explosion, like a monthly offload. They need to pick you because you have been there for all the other offloads. So they can be in another relationship, but then when this builds up, they need to offload. They will contact you like, look what you did. This is all your fault. And you're like,
and guess what happens? They are based, it's based on a reaction. It's based on a reaction. When the reaction, right. If the narcissist goes on and they have another supply and that supply is running out, sometimes they'll come back to you and to push those buttons because that emotion that they see you doing gives them fuel. So if they can get fuel from your response, so if they say something and you respond, it gives them fuel to keep going in the last situation. And so what happens is, what we have to learn, that's why we learned about soul ties. Soul ties is your mind, your will, and emotions. In the natural realm, you'll find yourself, you've seen a lot of people that have went into mental institutions, you've seen them commit suicide, you've seen them do all of that because they lost their mind. And they're not getting anything back. But in another Christian form that we do, we break soul ties. We claim our souls back, our mind, our will, and our emotions. And then what we do is we set boundaries. We learn how to say no. We learn how to detach and to go in and refuel the right way when we need to. But the biggest thing that I would say to anybody, that if you are in this situation and you're trying to figure out, how did I get here? Is somebody pulling on me like this? Or why am I going down? Because you're going to go down. I'm going to tell you this now. You narcissists, when they get to you, they're supposed to be the head of everything. Their goal is to bring you down. And sometimes
they need you down.
Minimum. Yeah.
That's
to
what
make
they
them
need
look
you
good.
down.
Yeah.
So
especially if you were a good
here's one thing that I wrote. And if you're always being recontacted, if you're always getting a phone call, if you're always talked about, if anytime, I'll tell you right now, people have created fake profiles to follow me. People have to check out my stories. Anytime someone wears one of my shirts, they get a phone call. I mean, it's almost an obsession with me, right? And you know why? Because the supply that they replaced me with is not good enough.
Yeah, it's not good supply.
Their supply is so terrible that they need me to survive. And that's why my silence is my most powerful weapon. I don't go into this he said, she said war. I don't care what you say about me. I know I'm good supply. That's why I keep it to myself. And guess what? I'm still a great person. This time I protect it. I put a life insurance policy on it that's worth millions and millions of dollars. And the only way that you need me if I give you the intention.
Yeah. And the best thing to do is, if you know, it's easier sometimes for us, because if we're not married or we don't have any children, you know, we can just plan a right exit. But it's not always easy for others to be able to do that. So when we're able to go in and go no contact, you know what? Hey, we refuel, you know, the best way we can, and we start healing. Because what happens is, when we're in that situation, we're in fog. We can't see what's real and what's not real. But when we get to a distance, we're able to give ourselves some time, and we're able to find out, wow, how did I end up? You'd be like, I mean, after I have to admit it, when I stepped back and look, I was like, I never would have chose this person as a friend in a million years. I never would have chose this person to be a partner in a million years.
No, we were talking about this yesterday. We said the only way you know if you disconnected from them, if you disappointed them. And then, and for yourself, you would know if you totally disconnected from them is by the level of stupidity that you hit. You're like, what happened? I am not that dumb. You feel so stupid. You're so mad at yourself that you fell for it. You're like, what the bleep? You're so like, we were talking about that yesterday. Like, I am not
here. And then before you know, you look up and you'll be like, but then after that, when you realize that it wasn't anything that was all wrong with you, you realize it was something right with you. You had something to offer, whether it was your influence, whether it was your finances, whether it was your way, all of your character traits, because a narcissist is empty. So what happens is with the empath, we can give. With a narcissist, they can't. They can only take in. They have so many holes that they can't give. And so what we do is we give and give and give, and we keep giving, thinking that we're going to get something in return. Maybe if I keep helping, maybe if I keep doing this, I'm going to get something back. Maybe if they approve of me, I'm going to get something back. Well, in actuality, they have nothing to give you. So how is it can you get something back? So you spend all your wheels and wheels and wheels going, thinking that you're about to get something that you're never going to get. So it always ends up one-sided, which makes it an ungodly soul tie. So that's the way, you know, you want to deal with it. It's the fact that you get your soul back. And once you get your soul back, which is your mind, your will, and what they deal with is they deal with emotions. So if you can learn how to build boundaries or set boundaries and not respond, and just start loving yourself again and identify that there's nothing wrong with you. That's going to be the first thing that we want to take and let people know today. There is nothing wrong with you. God did not put this on you. He did not. He said, it was Jeremiah 11, the thoughts and plans that I have for you are good and not of evil. So what he basically is saying is this: anything that will come up against you that is bad, I did not send that, but I will use it.
Right.
But God does not God's plan. Bad. I believe the reason why we were allowed to go through this, because it doggone show God didn't send it. We are allowed to go through it for the very thing that we were doing. Yeah, what we're doing today is so we can help other people. God allowed us to survive so we can let other people know, because now we are survivor. You know, like Destiny, we are survivor. So now that
we're already coming up in 20 minutes. All right. So what we're going to do is, I know we're going to do a part 2. All right. For people that have watched it, leave questions so we can bring it up part 2. We're thinking about maybe doing part 2 tomorrow. One thing that I am going to leave with, like she said, like the empaths, the reason why you get sucked into this is because they need you. You have something so good and valuable and powerful that they need it. They manipulated you. They suckered you into it. They can't keep their selfishness without your supply. So that's why when you leave them, they love you so bad because you took back your supply. And good for you, but you have to know there's nothing wrong with you. Now that you took your supply back, keep it. And now you need to revamp yourself by whatever you say yes to, that's your path. That's how powerful you are. Just remember that. Well, we will have a part 2. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Leave the comments in the leave the questions in the comments so we can come back with part 2, and we'll announce part 2 maybe tomorrow, or we'll launch another day with the flyers. So today was 21 minutes went by fast. So hold on, we'll answer one question. Does a narcissist know they are narcissists and what they're doing? No, they don't look at themselves as a narcissist. They look at themselves as a victim in life. Like they got the shortcomings in life, that they're always screwed over. When is it my turn? They act like the biggest babies, victims in the world, and we fall for it.
Literally, they're big. They're like big babies. They're always throwing tantrums, and they can never celebrate you. If it's your day, they can't celebrate. You got to throw that in the stick.
Yeah. All right. So we'll come back with part 2, and thank you guys for joining.
Yes, thank you.